from the Shelf is a podcast where industry experts fill in the gaps that are integral to growth for early stage beauty founders. And today we are going to dive into insights. Insights help brands understand what the consumer wants. And since the consumer is making the purchase, insights can help you carve out your specific niche to deliver on what that customer wants, what they need, and to also understand your brand's place in the market. In this episode, I discuss skincare insights with Elise Morgan of the Emerson Group.
Are you launching a brand for clean beauty enthusiasts? Are you launching for women of color? Are you launching a Gen Z brand? Knowing who your shopper is critical and has to be the first consideration for launch.
That's a snippet from our conversation with Elise, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. Elise is the insight lead for skincare, bath, deodorant, and the shave categories at the Emerson Group. She's been at Emerson for a couple of years, but has years of experience at a variety of well-known CPG brands, including Gillette, Coca-Cola, and Pfizer Consumer Healthcare. She's held a variety of roles spanning customer sales, insights, and category management. Elise knows consumer packaged goods, and she also loves the beauty and skincare categories. Today, Elise and I sat down and talked about the growth outlook for the skincare category. We discussed trends, the importance of channel strategy, and what brands can do to differentiate themselves amongst the competition. I'm so excited for you all to hear what Elise has to share. Insights like this typically come with a $ attached, and you are able to get these insights for free, just for a brief moment of your time. I hope that you enjoy what she has to share today, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts about this. Let's get into today's episode. So, in this kind of first season of the podcast, I've had two folks from the Insights team from Emerson talk to us about insights. And I'm really excited to have you on today to talk about skincare trends. And while I know there's going to be a couple of folks that are going to talk about insights, I would love to hear from you, your thoughts on how can insights help early stage brands?
Love that question. My favorite topic. Insights can help early stage brands in so many ways. I think the most critical role of insights, it's around really understanding your potential consumer or shopper of your brand. Are you launching a brand for clean beauty enthusiasts? Are you launching for women of color? Are you launching a Gen Z brand? Knowing who your shopper is critical and has to be the first consideration for launch. So not only do you need insights to really understand the viability of your target, but also to understand how, where, and when to connect with that consumer and talk to that consumer. So the shopper consumer piece, first and foremost. I think the second piece that's really important is understanding the channels you're going to launch in. Are you going to launch direct to consumer on your own website? Are you going to place your brand on Amazon? Are you going to be in brick and mortar stores or some combination of all of those? Launching on digital first really gives you a way to get some very quick insights. You are able to adjust your product content. You're able to adjust your pricing. And you are able to get access to user-generated content, specifically product reviews, and also very quick visibility to sales data, as it doesn't get any more honest than when the consumer or shopper makes a point of view on your brand through a review or buys or does not buy your brand. So that's an important piece as well. It's also about understanding the industry and the competitive landscape. Right? What are you trying to be in this category, in this space? How competitive is the category? Are there a few skincare in this case? Are there a few big players? Yes, there are. There are many big players in skincare. Is there a lot of white space? And is this a new category, or are there segments that are a new category? Are there a bunch of aggressive, creative, amazing indies fighting for retail space and that consumer share of wallet? Is there a combination of all of these? I would argue that there's a lot of that in skincare, right, to think about. So really understanding your potential competition and what you can do to differentiate your brand from everybody else out there is critical.
That's really good, Elise, and that's really helpful. And just to, clarify, when you're talking about channels, you mentioned digital, but I know that we often also reference, like a mass channel, which would be a Walmart and Target, a drug channel,
Yes.
which would be a CVS, Walgreens here in the US. And that's just a way for you or a way for early stage brands or new brands to think, who is the consumer and where are they shopping? And that's what you're talking about, right? When you're talking about matching up those insights.
Yes. Where's that shopper shopping? What is your proposition and how are you differentiating? And really, it becomes about, okay, how much work and research have you been able to do? That's another important consideration, where the shopper is. But, okay, have I done a lot of research? Do I know things about my shopper that, well, maybe I can get for, quote, free by asking for reviews on my website or launching on Amazon where I can change creative, I can change my message on the fly and get immediate results. So that level of channel, digital versus store, is one thing. But then, yes, when you decide to go digital, is it Amazon? Is it your own website? Is it maybe a retailer.com? Is it credo.com? Right? And then in the store environment, okay, do I go to a small, sort of aggressive store retailer where they may be more nimble, they may want a different offering than the big players such as Walmart or Target? Or because Walmart and Target right now are really trying to double down, bringing small, nimble brands into their operation to attract Gen Z and younger consumers, do I target there? So a lot of options to consider, and how do we use insights to understand what is best and then what's going to give me the biggest return on learning very quickly, because I look at user reviews and user generated content as really free marketing research.
I love that. And we love free things. Well, I mean, it's really important to early stage brands to leverage the free resources when they can. So that user generated content is a great tip, Elise. Now, you already talked a little bit about skincare being an industry that has not a lot of brands, joking, obviously, that has a lot of brands. And I'm starting to hear rumblings that in some areas, skincare might be oversaturated. I'm curious, as you have insights, what does the data say? What's the growth outlook in the next 3 to 5 years? There can be growth. Is that growth coming from small brands? If these new brands are trying to come and make a splash, where's the best place to do it? Lots of questions, feel free to start wherever, you feel so moved.
Yeah, skincare, I mean, that's the benefit of being in skincare and launching in skincare, is that it is a growing category. Now, the downside of that, yes, it is saturated. We're dealing with an environment with a lot of big players that are very established in the category and have incredibly deep pockets. L'Oreal, Olay, Neutrogena, all of those big brands that innovate and do amazing things and are on or above, beyond trend all the time. We have the other dynamic of, and I've talked about this already, many of these really creative small brands and indies who are entering the category with really interesting propositions, whether it be clean beauty propositions, sustainable, really differentiated, and I'm going to use the term creative again, offerings that are eroding at some of the share. They are certainly taking a lot of shelf space at retail. So that is what we have to think about, is that convergence, right? I would agree that it is saturated, but there is growth, and really moisturizers and acne are driving a lot of the growth right now. There's so much going on in acne with the entry of hydrocolloid treatments, right? Which Starface and Zit Sticka, Mighty Patch with the Hero, right? All of these brands are really disrupting by way of a different way of solving for acne. And I mean, gosh, Mighty Patch on Amazon is doing incredibly well. If you go into Target or go into the drug channel, you see a lot of these acne patches, which are driving growth. So the prognosis is very positive. Moisturizers in particular have a high growth CAGR through 2026. So a lot going on in this space, and it's really important to be very focused on what it is you want to be able to get through all the noise.
So given that, what are you most excited about in skincare? I mean, I personally do love, the skin positivity that comes with like Zitsika and, love to give that positivity to my preteen daughter who, is definitely entering the category with, everything that comes with that. But what are you most excited about, Elise?
I have to say, I just love this category. As much as it's like a beast to assess it, I just love this category. I love everything about it. So there's so much to be excited about. I think from my perspective, I'm going to list a couple of things. The ingredients and the pressure we as consumers are putting on the industry to make better products, to show us claims that are actually validated and true. This whole clean beauty movement, I'm a person who has suffered from skin allergies. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, the process you have to go through to understand what is wrong with me. Why do I have red welts on my face? And go through the expensive testing and find out that something in your skincare product that you were using to help is actually harming you. So the ingredient evolution, I call it, from more or less regulated, not as good ingredients now to the clean movement, to really these clinical sort of science and clean ingredient profiles are so much better. We've got retailers now that specialize in only clean beauty products. And some people would claim, yeah, they're just marketing and it's fluff. Well, no, if you're taking out 2,500 really bad ingredients from your skincare selection, that's a good thing because the things I was allergic to are, well, on that list. So I think that's one piece. I also think inclusive beauty is a really exciting place. Not only are we meeting the needs of more consumers in different groups, but I think there are different ways to look at inclusivity. I'm going to look at disabilities as 1 in 4 people in this country have a disability, whether it's a visual impairment or what have you. And you think of being in the shower and using shampoo and conditioner, and even somebody without a disability, why are the bottles always the same? I get it. It's a cost thing, right? But you've got soap in your eyes. You're sitting there trying to get ready. You can't differentiate between that, right? And God forbid you're getting old like me and you need glasses, as you can see. I can't read the bottle. So why does this have to be so difficult? So I think the whole concept with disabilities is even a tiny change made to a product, a bottle that's easier to identify in the shower, can help not only those with disabilities, but also mainstream audiences. And I think Degree has done some work with a deodorant concept, and I know Olay's done some work in skincare, but how can we make these more accessible and easy to use for those with disabilities and the entire market? And then we get into skincare tones and such, and tinted sunscreen, for example, or tinted anything right now is a big deal and a big trend. Everyone wants to use less product. Well, something like 2/3 of all tinted products come in one tint. So how helpful is that, right? So I think the whole inclusive piece as well is another exciting space. And those are just two in the interest of time that I wanted to highlight, but there is just so much exciting place to be.
I love that. And I agree. I think beauty and skincare in particular is just super exciting. There's just always something new. So I love that. Now that we've kind of talked a little bit about some of your personal favorites, I'd love for you to share some of the trends that you're seeing in skincare and just let the folks know, some of these things you might be able to read or gauge, but, it's always good to hear from experts in the category as to what likely will be driving growth, what the trends are, and where those things are coming from.
Happy to. And I have 6 of them that I'll highlight. I won't go deep in the interest of time, but I think the first one that's really important, really top of mind right now is skin health. Well, what does skin health mean? Well, it's not just about looking good. It's about feeling good. We hear this expression, the skinification of everything, right? Generally, in the beauty personal care space, ingredients start with facial skincare and then migrate to other categories. What's that mean? Well, vitamin C, for example, right? Vitamin C, typical facial care ingredient. Well, now it's making its way into body. It's making its way into other spaces, right? Peptides and vitamin E and all of these other products are making their way. So skin health is really about your skin feeling good. Your skin is the largest organ in the body. So we have to nurture that and take care of it. And there's this increasing awareness of the impact of stress on your skin. We all know that too much sun is a bad thing, but it's funny because most people consider anti-age their first priority with skincare. Well, why are we all out in the sun, right? It's a bit of a disconnect there. Stress is another one. It creates cortisol. Cortisol levels get elevated. Your skin barrier gets damaged, and then you're susceptible to acne, eczema, and all of these other things. So skin health is a bunch of things. It's skin protection. So sun protection is really hot, and so is environmental protection, skin barrier health, microbiome, all of these pieces that really affect your skin barrier and keeping good stuff in, meaning moisture, and bad stuff out. So skin health covers a lot. There's a physical and an emotional part of it, but really top of mind right now. Ingredients. I referred earlier to the ingredient evolution, right? There's been this, first of all, a more informed approach to shopping this category than ever before. We have Gen Z, younger people like my children who are smarter at skincare shopping than many of us who have been around, right? People are looking at ingredients, they're shopping, they want what they want to be really trusted and validated and all of those important things. So transparency, very, very important. And we see this evolution. Before 2019 and 2020, naturals were, small, but they were driving category growth. Then during the pandemic, everybody said, yikes, naturals don't have the shelf life. Are they really better? No, not necessarily. So it became about therapeutic. Therapeutic brands, CeraVe, Cetaphil, those types of brands are still winning. But now there's this evolution around, again, I referenced clinical earlier, where there is the science and that trust and transparency, but also the absence of bad ingredients and taking more out that's not good for your skin. So a lot going on in ingredients.
And that's clinical. So like mixing clean with clinical to get clinical.
Exactly. It is a trend right now and expected to continue. I think the third piece is, a little contradictory in the skincare space, it's skinimalism. Really challenging those multi-step routines, right? We all hear about K-beauty and 10-step this and 25-step this. Well, how many steps do we need, right? What has happened, and particularly during the pandemic when people were home and decided, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try different things. I'm going to start a routine if I haven't had one. I'm going to enhance my routine as well. Guess what? That skin health I just talked about, that's really important. People have over-cleansed, over-exfoliated, overdone everything. So there's a lot of skin barrier damage. So skinimalism is the whole concept of less is more, multi-use products that do more in one bottle than buying 25 of them. I mean, skincare is always going to be the glow up, even with the resurgence of makeup and getting out again. If you have poor skin, your makeup's not going to look great either, right? So big deal there on the skinimalism front. And we see brands doing this, a lot of balms that have multi-use, skincare in the sun care space. And so it's sort of like sunscreens have now skincare ingredients that do great things for the skin, moisturize, etc., and vice versa. Sun protection making its way more and more into beauty products. Technology, I'll speak really quickly about this, but really the concept of tech devices that help with diagnostics and tracking and are paired with topicals to affect the absorption of topicals. So a lot in that space. Also AR platforms and artificial intelligence platforms that really enable it to be easier to discover, to engage with brands and shop with brands. And I know we're back to stores, but you know what? We've changed and there is a lot of online shopping. And how do you shop for skincare and makeup? So all these hands-off approaches. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the QR code is back and it's back in a big way and it's now mainstream. I joke, I have an 88-year-old family member who pulls that phone out and gets that menu out at a restaurant faster than I am or that I can, right? So this whole concept of QR code being mainstream gives us education. If you're in store and don't have the room to message, well, okay, click the QR code and you can learn more. Sustainability is another one, the new competitive edge. It's not just nice to have, it's really a must do now, especially if you're trying to reach younger audiences such as Gen Z. The beauty industry is one of the, if not the top offender. I can give you all the numbers about the waste that goes into landfills every year. It's a lot. So the beauty industry is under a lot of pressure to cut that down and really come up with better packaging options and better product offerings from a recyclability perspective, refillable, waterless. Most of these beauty personal care items are 70 to 90% water, which is a scarce resource. So how do we use less of that? Also, when there's all this water in a product and you're ordering online, like I just alluded to, preservatives are needed, cost of shipping is more. So again, how do we get more efficient there? And then inclusivity and social factors with really value as a driver of brand choice. Does your brand believe in what I believe in? So that's becoming more and more important on top of some of the other skin challenges and other things that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. One thing that I did want to mention that I thought was really interesting that you said was that skincare is a category that's almost a trendsetter. You mentioned vitamin C, and that's showing up in other areas in sun care. And, I even think about Olay came out with some products that had retinol and biotin in body care. And so as I think about that, one of the questions that I have for you is, how can early stage brands get access to insights when they don't have a budget for this?
Yeah.
But maybe some of it is just, looking at some of the skincare trends in this category specifically and seeing if it can apply to body care or seeing if there are new areas that it can apply to. Like I know there's some things from skincare that are transferring over into hair care with the whole skinabalism. But do you have any other, tips or tricks in terms of how new brands can get access to insights with a minimal or a light budget?
Yes, I do. And just one clarification on the vitamin C piece, for example, a lot of these ingredients are actually not necessarily new. A lot of these tried and true are coming back with better formulations and different application of the product peptides and all kinds of different ingredients that are hyaluronic acid, niacinamide. They're not brand new, but again, they're tried and true and making their way in. So that's what we mean by sort of some of the skinification. And so to transition over to your question, a lot of things you can do, I think, is fine as a starting point. We all love to go onto Google, right? I mean, there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there. So you have to be careful, right? A lot of brands and others share their own point of view on things which may or may not be representative of the macro insight or reality. So you just really have to be careful. Make sure you understand what you're sourcing. Make sure you validate what you're sourcing against other insight that you have. And always, always, always make sure that you are sourcing where you got a data nugget from if you're making a very big decision or you're passing insight along. And as far as that, as we talk about the trend, the Google piece, I think the first thing you can do is go to websites for other skincare brands, particularly those that you consider best in class, but also those that you feel are not as strong in their marketing or their positioning. What is it about these best in class brands that you feel you can apply to your model or your proposition to stand out and differentiate? And what are the types of things that you need to avoid? And the other piece is, what is the competitive intelligence you can get from those brands that are potential threats to your proposition when you launch? So I think that online is a great place. And this is going to sound like I'm really stating the obvious, but walk retail stores. We're all so busy, right? And as a brand founder, do you have time to go on all these stores? Well, really important. Go to prestige outlets, go to mass outlets, and find out who's got the shelf space, who's got the promotional space. Why are these brands winning? What is it about them that's compelling? And what is it that you can do? What is it that you can learn? I think the other piece too is that this industry, one of the things that's fun about it is full of associations that bring people together to learn. There are a couple of them, such as CEW or GCI, among many others that charge a modest annual fee and give you access to webinars, to articles. They even, now that we're all back in action here, to annual or biannual events where other brands get together, data providers get together and share and present. So this is an amazing way. And also you can explore potential partnerships and other opportunities there. And I find that when I attend these, a lot of the brand founders in small brand space are really excited and anxious to share their story and share their journey. And it's quite a collaborative environment. So I think that's another effective way to learn. And then finally, user generated content. Again, I cannot say that enough. It's when you are launching digital or marketing online or in social channels, you have access to how all of those are performing and very quickly. So use that. That is your consumer talking.
That's really, really good, Elise. And some of those things, I know that might seem obvious. I think though, when you come from the retail side of things, you've obviously been in insights for a number of years. I was a buyer myself. I know I look at stores and shop stores in a way that is unlike anyone else. I mean, I will literally go into department stores and think, wow, they are really running light on inventory. I'm just, I'm just supposed to be, I'm looking for shoes. But the first thing that I think is, wow, they're really running light on inventory. Or I like to go to this store because this store seems to send more of their high end items here. But I know this location seems to be more of this consumer segment. So I've realized that, I think that way because I have that context of working in retail and knowing that we don't treat every store the same, or at least as we've kind of moved and gotten technology, we don't treat every store the same. So that's why when you suggest something like go out to the store and shop, it's like if you're talking about a mass market, for example, go to a Target that is, if you're in New York, check out the Midtown store, check out the Brooklyn store, notice how different the assortments are, what makes them different. Are there differences in your category? Are there differences in other areas? Because all of those things can really help you understand who that consumer is so that even if you're pitching to a Target, going back to your original channel strategy, you can say, hey, I'm a local brand. I'm a New Yorker.
Yes.
I'm based out of here. And I want to launch in these stores because I know that they're going to be local people. Your Midtown store is going to probably have more tourists, but your Brooklyn store is in the neighborhood, right? And that's where you're able to pick up on, or if you do that legwork, which is a lot of legwork, but you can kind of start to make some connections to say, here are some segments that I would recommend. Is this something that you are open to retailer? Because all of the retailers don't have those ideas. All of the buyers don't necessarily even have those ideas. So if you do the research and, you come up with it, sometimes they'll say, hey, maybe I didn't think of that.
Really good point, because it's all about disruption, right? And how do we change things? And one of the things you learn when you're walking these stores, especially the big box doors, is that operations drives a lot of the decisions. So as a consumer, you walk in and say that this doesn't make sense. And as a smaller, newer brand, you have that opportunity to jump in and do something different and potentially change this or position yourself in a different part of the store. As long as you have a space, you need to have a space. You need to have somewhere to put yourself, because if not, then nobody's going to listen. But wow, if it's not in that typical traditional space that everyone else is in, all the more reason to pursue it and disrupt and differentiate. So that's a really good point you made.
Thank you. On that topic of disruption, it made me think about another thing, which is new brands that are looking to get in at retail. They typically want to disrupt. So I'd love for you to just talk about how you look at the category and how you assess where disruption is ripe for the picking. You talked about a lot about accessibility. You talked about the trends, but I'd love just to get giving your lens on categories. How can brands kind of leverage that if you were in their position to develop new product or to look at how they could bring that product to retail and then disrupt?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot going on. There is more noise in this category than I think in many others. There are so many trends. I just focused on the macro trends, right, within skincare that iterate. But then there are shiny pennies. What's the new color for this, or the new whatever for this, or the new aesthetic for this? There is so much going on. There's no way you can cover everything. So I think the biggest opportunity for a new brand is to really assess what is table stakes, meaning what is expected as baseline by the consumer or shopper versus what is really differentiated. I talked earlier about clean beauty and sustainable beauty and all of these things, right? There are more and more claims around vegan and cruelty free. And whoa, it's so overwhelming. At the end of the day, we say, does the consumer really care? Well, the consumer now, you know what, expects all these things as baseline. It needs to be clean. It needs to be vegan, all these things, right? So you have to really focus on, okay, what is that one or two things that is going to make me stand out from everybody else? If sustainability is your thing, then hit it hard. Build a new approach to whether it's a waterless formulation that makes you different. You can't do everything. Meet the baseline, but really hammer hard on whether it's an ingredient profile, whether it's your regimen across bath and skin that has a certain ingredient. Hit that hard.
That's really good, Elise. I think that what is table stakes, kind of what is everybody doing and what is differentiated. And I would harp on that because as a buyer, I would hear from brands all the time about what their innovation was or what was differentiated. And I'm like, you providing me a 96 count instead of a 36 count is not innovative. That's a trade up, which still can grow the category. But let's just call a spade a spade. This is a trade up strategy, which is nothing new. And that's not what I would call innovation. That might be part of the growth strategy. But to your point, you saying, hey, we're a clean brand. That's important. Well, everybody is clean now. That was new maybe in 2015, right?
Exactly.
In 2022, it's table stakes. And so I do think it's important for brands to take a step back and really be honest with themselves in saying, what is new? What isn't? And where do we stand? As they pull those stories together, look at the insights, look at the trends, and hopefully, build those decks and build those stories to those retailers to try to sell and tell them why they're different.
It all comes down to insights. The insights tell you who your target should be, and you're going to have an idea in your heart what that target values, how to meet the need of that target by being different. And then to your point, when it comes time to sell in to a retailer like a Target or whomever, you've got the rationale as to why. It's not about I belong to this company and my brand. No, it's not about the brand selling itself anymore. It's not. It's about the ingredients. It's about the proposition that's different. Your name doesn't really do it anymore. So that's where the insight value comes in.
Thank you so much to Elise for joining us today. I absolutely love talking about the skincare category. It's such a dynamic category with things that are changing constantly. And it was exciting to hear what things are popping for the upcoming year. One key takeaway that we talked about right at the end is really understanding what is table stakes versus what is differentiated. That's so huge because that table stakes versus true differentiation marker really does change over time. And so it's important, especially as a brand founder or someone who works on new product development, to understand where your brand is as you're in the ideation stage and as you're talking about things that might be differentiated at the time, to check in and make sure that those points of differentiation haven't become table stakes. It's so important, and I feel like I can't stress that enough. As always, thank you so much for joining and for listening. I encourage you to rate the podcast, to share it with your colleagues, and I look forward to you hearing what we have to say on the next episode. Bye.